Ladies, gentlemen, Speakerhead Squad, what's going on? It's your boy Speakerhead and welcome back to another video. As many of you may know, besides making pals overpowered, one of my favorite things to do in Palworld is building massive bases that fulfill certain needs of mine. But after completing my most recent mega base build, which has easily been my most in-depth build so far, I decided to outdo myself even more by not just building another mega base, but an entire mega city with multiple mini cities spreading throughout the entire area. And while I have plenty of work to do on the rest of the mega city, I just finished adding the final details of the Rayne Syndicate city, so I figured I'd give you all a tour of everything I built here. But before we go over this city, I want to quickly talk to you all about today's sponsor, Berrybyte. Berrybyte is a server hosting service that allows you to create and run dedicated servers on a wide variety of games, including Palworld. I've heard you all enjoy my upgrade guides due to them being simple and straight to the point, and thankfully setting up a server with Berrybyte is as well. All you have to do is decide on how many players you want on the server, whether you're on Xbox or Steam, and where you want the server to be located. Luckily, they have servers across the globe, so no matter where you are, Berrybyte has you covered. And with their servers using the latest Ryzen-based hardware, you'll never have to worry about a laggy experience while hosting your server. And just like that, you can have a private dedicated server for you and your friends to play on. They even have configurable backups for your world, so you don't ever have to worry about losing your progress. Plus, with their affordable prices for Palworld servers starting at just $7 a month, there's no better place to get an awesome dedicated server. On top of their great prices, if you use my promo code SPEAKER20, then you can save yourself an extra 20% off your next server. Once again, that promo code is SPEAKER20 to save yourself an extra 20% off your next server. So if you're interested in hosting a dedicated server or just want to support the channel in general, you can check out Berrybyte by clicking the links in the description below. Thank you very much, Berrybyte, for sponsoring the channel, and without further ado, let's get back into the video. Finally, if you enjoy any of the music you hear during this video or just want to support the channel in general, you can check out my DMCA free music label Speakerhead Studios, also in the description below. But with all that out of the way, let's get back to the video. Now, before we actually go over anything in this city, there are a few things I want to mention about this base build. So right off the bat, I want to mention that this base build is going to be much different than every other base build I've done in the past. For starters, unlike all of my other base builds, this is a project I wanted to build solely for the reason of having fun rather than building something you'd use in a regular survival setting. I'm not saying I didn't have fun building those bases, but I did try to make those more functional rather than aesthetically pleasing. With that said, I want to make it very clear that besides playing with some adjusted settings such as making structures built outside of base circles not deteriorate over time, I also did end up using a mod to give me less building restrictions since I wanted to put some things where I couldn't normally put them. I'll put the mod I used on screen right now, but I did need to use the mod to remove some of the building restrictions Palworld has in order to build everything the way I wanted to, including building some structures outside of the base circle that normally have to be built inside of them. So while a majority of these builds could be for the most part replicated fairly similarly, there are some things you just won't be able to copy due to the building restrictions Palworld has in place. Now, the second thing I wanted to mention, which somewhat ties into what I was just talking about, is that while I did try to make this city along with all the other ones as fully functioning as possible, my main goal is to make a more aesthetically pleasing city rather than one that contains everything a player could need. So for example, while there are a majority of structures players would need at this base, such as crafting tables, furnaces, and so on, due to trying to give this city more of a rugged and rundown look, you won't find any highly advanced structures here. I'll also mention that due to how these cities are built, I wasn't able to fit everything a player could need at each of these bases, but the overall end goal is to have one of every type of production structure somewhere throughout this entire mega city. I guess another way to view this build is that this city is just one small piece to a much larger base build, so just keep that in mind since I'm fully aware not every structure a player would need for an efficient base is built at this city. Now, the very last thing I want to mention before going through this city is while I'll try to show off as much as I can, in all reality there's probably some things I'm only going to show off for just a moment or not at all. So to make up for this, I've gone out of my way to take over 500 pictures of this city for players to check out for themselves if they so choose to. During one of my recent live streams, my chat was telling me pictures to go alongside the videos would be helpful, so I make sure to get good angles of every nook and cranny of this city. But whether you want to use them as extra reference pictures or just want to see everything that's going on in this base in a bit more detail, I have a link to the Imager page I made for it down in the description below. So with all that info about this build out of the way, let's actually go check out the Syndicate city I built. Alrighty, so here we are at the Syndicate City, and as you can see, there's a lot going on here. There's a total of 25 independent buildings just at this city alone, and that's not including anything that's all over here. And for those who are curious, I do plan on making videos on all these separate buildings because these are all independent cities, but at the moment, we're just going to be focusing on the Syndicate City. And after thinking about it for a little bit, I think the best way to go about this, we're going to go through the main center building first, and then we're going to go through this inner ring, and then finally we're going to go through all of the outer rings. ring. So without further ado, let's actually hop on down here. As you can see, we do have some pals kind of running around working right now. We don't have any syndicate people, but we will be showing that off here in a little bit with all those guys running around. But just to make sure that everything's taken care of at the moment, such as electricity and everything, we got some pals working right now. And just like all the syndicate people will have working at this base, I'll go through everything that these pals have going on too, because I did upgrade these guys a lot as well. But to actually start going through things here, we're at the entrance of the main building, as you can see, and we got plenty of defenses all around just to make sure that everything's safe. So we got some machine guns in these buildings here, we got some sandbags here, we got the spike barricades, and I think it all looks pretty solid if you ask me. And then we do have the main big doors here, so if I wanted to, in case we're being attacked or anything, we can close these up, and this is what that's generally gonna look like if we actually have them closed up. So nice and defended. But to actually start going through the main base here, let's actually run on in. We'll open these up once again here. But as you can see on this first floor here, we have a nice little bar area for all the syndicate people to eat at. You know, you gotta stay fed if you're working hard. But to actually start going over things, kind of starting from this side and going in a circle, we have some spas here to make sure our pals are all good on sanity, along with some nice banners and a furnace here, so we got that going on as well. But then moving along here, underneath this staircase, the second floor, we have a dimensional pal box along with a guild chest. But then next to all that, we have a table with some chairs, and as you can see, I kind of just placed those randomly. I figured these guys weren't going to clean up after themselves, so I kind of just placed chairs randomly around here. Even though it is a little messy, I think it looks pretty good, especially for the aesthetic of the space. But then moving to the very center here, we got some more banners going on, and we have the main bar here, so we have some kegs in back, we have some barrels off to the left and right here next to these cauldrons, and then finally we do have some of the iron stools, since I thought that looked best for here. Then moving on to the right side of the bar here, we have some more tables. Once again, same general idea as those, so not much to go over, but we do have them all set up right here, and you can have some conversations with your friends if you'd like. And then underneath this staircase, I didn't really know what to put under here, so I just put some extra supplies, so some extra chairs in case someone breaks one, an extra table in case that happens, plus some extra barricades and cones for whatever you need, you know. But then finally on the rest of this wall here, it's pretty much going to be a mirror of that wall. So once again, we got a furnace right here, we have some spas, and then the banners once again. But then the last thing in this room here, we have some medicine racks just right here in front of the doors, and then we have a couple more tables along with our food box for easy access. And then to just quickly show off this area just a little bit better, so let's quickly hop into photo mode. So this is what it's generally gonna look like for you guys, so hopefully that kind of shows things off pretty well here. I'll also mention I'm probably not going to do photo mode for every single room, since I did take over 500 pictures of this entire base, but I will do that for some of these bigger rooms I can show off. But then moving on to the second floor now, so we have a medicine station right here, and we have one on the opposite side as well, just for some easy convenience. But then on the second floor here is where we're gonna have all of our beds and everything, and I do apologize for the lag. Besides not having a great computer, which I'll show what computer I have right now, and I know a laptop, but that's what I'm working with. But besides having just a completely garbage laptop that crashes all the time, in fact it crashed during this recording already, who would have thought having a base the size of half an island would make your game a little bit laggy, so that's also part of the reason. But once again, I do apologize for the lag. I've been trying to work on it, but there's not really much I can do at this time, especially while recording. But to continue showing off this floor here, as you can see, we have 10 beds on top and 10 beds on bottom, so 20 on each side here, so that's plenty of beds, plus 2 big ones in the middle. And then we do also just have some stuff kind of stacked up on both sides. We have some crates over here, and then we also have some lockers on this side. Then the very last thing to show off on this floor, besides the statue of power up there, is going to be right here, and in here we have a nice little bathroom. So in here you got a nice little sink, you have a little trash can, you got a toilet, you got some toilet paper right next to it, and you got a mirror to kind of look at yourself. So I think it's overall a pretty nice little bathroom we got here. And once again, I have more pictures kind of showing this off, since I know it's kind of hard to see in here. But other than that, that's going to be everything to show off on this second floor here. So the next floor here is going to be our last one, and this is where we're going to have all of our assembly lines. So as you guys can see up here, we have 3 assembly lines. We have a Mark II weapons assembly line, since I figured these guys are mainly going to be focusing on weapon production. But then on top of that, we just have a regular production assembly line here and a regular sphere assembly line over here. Actually, flip-flop what I just said around, that's going to be the production line, but either way, we have 3 assembly lines up here to craft anything you need. And then because there is going to be a lot of crafting going on up here, we do have plenty of chests to store any craftables you're going to be making. But as you can see, we have 5 chests on this side, and then we have 5 chests on this side. They are kind of clipping through the wall a little bit. I might adjust that, but as you can see, it is happening. And then finally, we do have plenty of lights all up here. I haven't really been pointing these out, but I do have pictures that kind of show these off a bit, but plenty of lighting in here as well. Moving on to the actual outer part here, we have this nice podium here so you can view everything, plus you can assign pals wherever you need to. But overall, I think you get a pretty decent view up here. I will admit it is a little laggy, so not as nice as I'd like it to be, but you can get a nice view of pretty much everything you need to up here. But then on the left and right side here, we do have some barricades along with some chests to hold some ammo and everything for these machine guns that are on both sides here. And I will mention that I have one of those mobile pal stations right there so I can spawn pals up here, since I do want to talk about stuff with the doors in a little bit. But to generally go over everything else, we did put some of these nice little fences right here. I think they look pretty nice. These are the schematic ones, along with also putting some of these schematic flags up here just because I think they look pretty awesome, especially for the Syndicate base. That's why I have them all over here. I think they just look great. But then at the very center here, we do have a rocket launcher turret, and I don't think I'm actually going to be having this be used at all. I do have ammunition for the other machine guns, but for the missile launcher, I think it's going to cause a bit too much damage at this base. But for the aesthetic, I think it looks pretty awesome just having a missile launcher at the very top. And then the very last thing to show off at the very top here is going to be, like I said, the little mobile pal box thing we have at the very top to spawn Syndicate guys up here. Finally, we have the big massive Syndicate flag here that shows that this is their city, and I'm so glad they added these because I love actually having these on top of all the bases. They just look awesome. But I think that's everything we had to go over on this main building here, so let's start working on the inner circle. So actually heading down here, starting with these first little buildings here, we'll start with this one and we'll go around left to right. But to show off the front here first, so starting off, you got the flag at the very top. I think it looks pretty good. And then I also decided to put some barrels in front of all the buildings along with some torches, since I thought it went with the aesthetic really well. But then actually going into the building here, so as you can see, we got the machine gun right here and we got it elevated just a little bit. I think I did have to use some mods to actually place it up there, but we got it just so it can go over this wall. Then we also have some barrels stacked up here, and then going on to the other corner, we got a chair, a little desk, a bigger desk with a chair, and then we got a cabinet, a little vending machine to make sure you're hydrated while hanging out and watching over everything. But then the very last things we got going on this floor is we have a chair here watching some TV, because you know you got to take a break here and there. But then we also just got some crates stacked here, and finally a medicine rack just in case you get hit while protecting things. And then as you can see, we have a ladder here, and a lot of these buildings do have a second floor. They're not the biggest just because of the space and everything, but they do have second floors. But then just quickly going up here, nothing crazy going on. We just have some crates all stacked up. We have a couch here to kind of hang out at, and then we do have this to kind of stand on so you can see into this courtyard a bit better. But other than that, that's all I really have going on up here. Nothing super crazy, but I did add a little bit just to kind of fill it out. But then moving on here, we're gonna go on to the next building, and I apologize if I'm going fairly quick through all this. It's just because there's so many buildings to go through. I think I mentioned 25 buildings, so I just want to make sure we get through all this in a reasonable time. And as I'll keep emphasizing throughout this entire video, that's exactly why I took pictures of everything, so that way you can actually go check them out without me going through everything really quick. But the next building we're going to be going over is not the library. It's actually going to be the merchant and pal shop. So once again, we just got some flaming barrels out front. I think they look pretty solid. And then actually going into the shop here, we got plenty of merchant stands here, and this is where I'd actually have the merchants you can purchase things from, not just Syndicate guys just sitting at these stands. So this is where you'd actually come to buy stuff. But to just kind of go over things here in the corner, we have some crates stacked up. You'll see a lot of this going on here. But then, like I said, we have the merchant stands and we have some bookshelves behind them, and they don't get in the way. The merchants are still able to get here totally fine. And then I also decided to throw a wooden crate in the corner there just because I thought that looked nice and I needed to fill that spot out anyways. I also didn't mention it at the last building, but every single one of these buildings have torches in them in the images that I told you guys about. about, they show off all the lighting and everything, but all these buildings do have torches and lighting. But getting back to showing off this building here, so on this other side here, we got some of these iron shelves here, and I think they look pretty nice with all the trinkets and whatnot. Then I also put an iron wall shelf here because, once again, I just thought it looked nice in this building. And then finally, we have the PAL merchant spot, and this is normally where I'd have the black market tier, and then we do have some bookshelves on both sides along with some regular shelves just behind it. But that's everything I have in this merchant shop here. I think it looks pretty solid for the most part, but let's move on to the next building here, and I'm pretty happy with how this one turned out. So this is going to be the Cluckin' Chickapee, and this is supposed to be kind of like a bar and grill type place, and I'm pretty happy with how it all turned out and everything. So you come on in here, you got the fenced off windows. You'll see this in a lot of buildings here. But then actually going through the bar and everything, as you can see, this is the actual bar itself, and you do have some cooking stations back there. I might throw a fridge back there as well, but I'm pretty happy with just the cooking stations at the moment. And then we do have some wooden stools kind of lining it as well, so that way you can drink at the bar. But then on the other side here, we just have some more shelves, nothing too crazy. And then we do have some more seating because, you know, it is a restaurant. You gotta have a place to sit. And then finally, just kind of going up here to the very top, we do have some very basic bedrooms in a lot of these buildings. Nothing super crazy, mainly just a couple of chests here and there in a bed, but I think it looks pretty nice. Like I said, nothing too crazy, but I think it gets the job done. But then to just quickly show off this bar area one more time, let's just quickly hop down here. Let me hop into photo mode since I know this is a bit of a small place, but this is going to be the general bar setup down here. And once again, I think it looks pretty solid. But since we're all done with this building here, let's move on to the next one. And the entrance is on the other side here. And this is going to be our energy plant. So this is where we're going to get all the electricity for this base. So as you can see, we have a sign over here that says energy plant. We do have another one on the other side over there. So 2 entrances for this building. But then actually going into the building here, as you can see, we have a fuddler hard at work generating some electricity for the base. And I know this structure really isn't necessary for generating electricity at this base since we got these guys right here, but I think the aesthetic of it just looks really nice. I just love this light bulb going off and the little dude running in it. I think it just looks great. But then behind our fuddler friend right here, we do have a spa just to make sure he can stay all good and happy on Sandy and everything. And then going through the rest of the building here, so we have all of our accumulators in here behind some glass, and we got plenty of them to make sure we got plenty of electricity for the space. And then also back here, we do have our alpha and beta generators, so that way you can get all of that stuff taken care of as well, and that's all blocked off. Then going over the wall now, so we just have an iron workbench right here. This isn't one of the ones you can actually work at, it's just decoration, but we got one of these guys right here along with a crate and a medicine rack. And then like I pointed out before, we do have 3 power generators right here, which are Joltogs. Hey little buddy, take care of. And then next to that, we do have some lockers, so we changed out for the orange and black ones compared to the regular gray because I thought it looked pretty nice. And then finally along this wall here, nothing too crazy. We just have a leather couch, we have one of those iron shelves on the wall, we have a wooden crate, and then one of those iron workbenches along with a chair just to kind of fill out the space. And like you guys might have saw as well, we do have torches in here, but we also have some regular actual lighting in here because I figured this is the power plant, so it makes sense to have some proper lighting in here. But that is generally everything to go over in this space. Once again, it's kind of hard to show off everything in here, but I do have plenty of pictures of that being shown off. But let's move on to the very top. So up here is nothing super crazy. We just have some torches all around to kind of light things up at night. But then we also have some pylons here as well. I know we only need one of these to get that work speed boost, but I put 4 of them here because I really like that symmetry. And then as you guys can see, I also decided to put an advanced chest here just because I thought it kind of looked like a power box for all these pylons. But other than that, there really isn't anything else to go over on this roof. It's pretty boring, honestly, but the next one has a lot more going on, as you can see. Speaking of, let's move on to the next building here, which this one I am pretty happy with how it turned out as well. So as you can see by the sign here, this is going to be the Sleep for Cheap Motel. So this is essentially going to be the hotel of this place. So if you plan on kind of temporarily staying in this city, this is where you'd go. Just like the energy plant as well, we do have 2 doors. So we have 1 door right here, and we also have 1 door over there. But to actually go into the motel here, so you come on in, you have a little desk desk with some books and everything, so if you want to hang out in the lobby. Moving on to the rest of the room here, as you can see, these are where all the actual rooms are. Nothing super crazy in all of these. It's just going to be a bed in a little crate, so literally the most bare bones room as possible, but you know, for the sleep for cheap motel, you get what you pay for. There's also no lighting in any of these rooms because we do have some lighting out here, so that should be plenty of lighting for all these rooms. And then as you can see, we got 6 rooms, 3 on the bottom and 3 on top, so we got plenty of space for people to stay at. Moving on to the rest of the motel here, we have a nice little leather couch with a clock here, nothing too crazy, along with some fences in front of the windows as usual. Then in this corner here, we have some vending machines and a claw machine to kind of keep you entertained in the lobby. But then what kind of motel would this be if we didn't have a motel manager? And this is gonna be Dave, the motel manager, if you couldn't tell. And as you can see, Dave here is just kind of chilling, minding his own business. He's got his little plant that hangs out with him, and he's just watching some TV while he waits for the day to pass by. But if you did plan on staying at this lovely establishment here, then this is the man you're gonna have to talk to. And then as you can see, the rate per night is gonna be 50 gold per night, and you put your gold in here, so a nice easy system. And then the very last thing on this floor is gonna be this room here, and it's kind of hard to see, but it says Dave's super totally cool room. Keep out, pools. And as much as I don't want to break Dave's rules, I am kind of the owner of this entire city, so I'm gonna go in and show you guys. So here we are in Dave's room, exclusive access here from yours truly, but we just have a nice little simple basic room setup. So a little bed, a little crate with a little lantern, and then we also just have a couple of chests and everything right here. So exclusive access to Dave's room so you guys can see. And now that we have officially gone over everything on the first floor here, let's move on to the second floor here, and this is where, as you guys saw, is going to be a little garden up here. So because Dave likes plants and everything, he decided to set up a little garden, and we got a fountain up here as well, and you can kind of just sit on this bench and enjoy everything if you'd like. But other than that, that's officially everything I had to show you guys at the motel here, so we're going to move on to the next building now. So as you guys can see, this building is unnamed, and we do have quite a few of these buildings that are unnamed, and it's just because not every building has to be something, you know. But then to go through this building here, well, before that, I do want to point out, because I forgot to mention in the past, I do have some light posts at all these corners just to kind of give some lighting at night. We do have the torches and everything, but we do have some electricity as well. But now to actually go through the building here, this is going to be kind of like a workshop place, so we have a lot of your kind of regular workbenches here, but then we also have some low tier furnaces and everything. We just have some general crates for storage. We have a little medicine station here. We got everything you could possibly need, all low tier stuff, but everything you need. But once again, nothing super crazy going on in this building. I tried to make it as aesthetically pleasing as I could, but like I said, I did what I could. And then to just quickly go up here, once again, just a very basic bedroom, so just a little bed and a little crate and a little lantern, so nothing super crazy up here. But with everything shown off in this building, let's move on to the next one, which is going to be another merchant building. So here on the other corner, we do have another merchant shop, and this is just where going to be Syndicate guys are going to be, because I do have a place where all sorts of merchants are going to be at, but it's not going to be at this city. But to generally show off this building here, as you can see, we have some barrels stacked in the corner. We have some wooden crates in this one to kind of change up the aesthetic. But then showing the rest of this off here, so we do have 2 PAL merchant spots right here with some shelves and everything behind that, which I think looks pretty nice. And then on the other side here, we just have a regular merchant shop with some more shelves and everything all kind of stacked up, and I think this once again also looks pretty solid. I also decided to throw a little repair bench in there because why not, you know. But that's everything to go over in this merchant shop here. So once again, just like all the other buildings, nothing super crazy, just some stuff kind of thrown all over the place. But then moving on to the very last building in this circle here, and it's going to be very similar to the first building since it's also kind of a watchtower. But just like all the other buildings here, we just have some barrels in front. I forgot to mention in front of that building there, but same kind of idea for all these buildings. And I also forgot to mention as well, we do have these brighter lights in the very front, because if we're going to be guarding the entrance, we got to make sure we can see everything at night. But then actually moving into the building here, as you guys might be able to tell, this is pretty much an exact copy of the building over there. It's just going to be flip-flopped. But to just go over everything quick, once again, we have the machine gun right here that's elevated so it can get over this wall. And then once again, we just got some barrels. We have the same kind of medicine racks, some more crates, even the same TV setup and everything. And then finally, we just got the same kind of stuff in this corner. I'm not going to point it all out again. You guys can just look at it and see. And then finally, once again, up here, we got a little bit different stuff up here. It's just going to be barrels instead of crates, but same general idea as the other side. But now that we've officially gone through every single building on the inner circle, let's start going through the buildings on the outer circle, starting with this one here. Actually, before we do go over this building, I forgot I do want to go over everything that's in these alleyways, because I did put a lot of work into these as well. But to actually go through the alleyways, same kind of direction as we went before. So going through this one here, we do just kind of have some garbage and stuff thrown in them. A lot of this is just going to be kind of general junk I thought would look nice in an alleyway, but overall there wasn't a lot of thought that went into this. I guess a good way to put it is when you're kind of just throwing junk around, you don't really need to think about where you're putting your junk. But then quickly moving on to the next alleyway here, we do have a garbage bag right here, just kind of looking down this alley real quick. But then moving on to the next alley here, we do have some more cones and everything. We have this big old tube, gotta love the big old tube. Then we also just have some more signs here, and then we have a big old stoplight, because I really just don't know where to put these in any sort of build. But then moving on to the next alleyway, once again we got some barrels right here behind the bar here. But then in this alley here, we got some tires all stacked up here, and we got some more trash bags and some more barrels and everything. So once again, just a lot of junk thrown around. I tried to kind of make it somewhat nice, but at the same time I had to make it look messy as well. But then moving on to the rest of the alley here, we do have some barrels here like I pointed out earlier. And then looking down this alleyway here, we do have some more kind of clutter and stuff thrown throughout the entire alley. And then in between these two big buildings here, we do have some nice stuff kind of set up here. So we got some more barrels and tires and whatnot. But then on top of that, we have a thrown out leather couch with, what's that? A TV. Looks like some homeless man is hanging out back here or something, but I just thought this was a fun little thing to set up. Then in the rest of this alley, we just got some tires, some trash bags, and nothing super crazy in this alley, but I thought it'd be a fun little kind of Easter egg to put in here. But then moving on to the rest of the alleyway here, like I said before, we just got some barrels kind of set up right here. Nothing super crazy, just kind of try to change the color so it all wasn't just the same barrel. But then we also just have a few trash bags in the corner, and once again I apologize for the lag. I'll try to work on it for future videos. I'm always working on it, but I'll keep trying. But in the other alleyways here, we just got some more trash bags. Once again, kind of just looking down there, just a bunch of trash. But in this alleyway specifically, we have an antique oven. Just kind of decided to throw that there. Same with the spool, kind of just want to throw that somewhere as well. And then moving on here, so behind this building we got some trash bags, but then in this alley we have some tires, some trash bags, plus a couple of crates and everything. So got some more clutter in here. And then finally in this last one here, this one was actually the first one I did if I remember correctly. So we just threw a couple of trash bags here, plus a bunch of barrels stacked up pretty high. And while I know a lot, if not all, this stuff in these alleyways isn't really necessary, I wanted to add it since I really want to make this city feel like it's being lived in. And considering this is the Syndicate city, where it's a more rugged and rundown kind of place, I want to make sure there was a bunch of clutter all over this place. So while all this literal junk isn't necessary for this build, I really think it ties everything together really well. But now that we're all done going through the inner alleyways, let's actually start going through the outer buildings here. Once again, starting with this building here. So for the rest of these outer buildings here, we're going to kind of start picking up the pace a little bit, because I just noticed that we're already an hour into this recording. It might not be that long for you guys, but it is for me, so we're not even halfway done. So we're going to start picking up the pace just a little bit. I'm still going to try to show off everything I can, but we are just kind of start going through things a little bit more quickly here. But a great example of something I'm not really going to point out anymore is the stuff that's going on in the front of these bases, because honestly it's all going to be the same except for these couple buildings, which I'll point out here in a bit. But to actually start going through the building here, so this is a bit of a workshop here and a bit of a defense kind of base here, so we have a lot of production stuff going on here. So to show off this side real quick, we just kind of have a lot of supplies and junk along with a regular workbench. And then towards the middle here, we just have some crates kind of stacked up loosely here, not in any organization or anything. And then over here we just have some barrels and some more kind of junk all stacked up here, along with some fence in front of all the windows and everything. But moving on to the rest of this floor here, so we have a table for people to kind of hang out with here, and then in the center we also have TV with a little stand and a couch to kind of watch TV. And then in the very corner here on this side, we're just gonna have some lockers, a little iron workbench, so one of the decorative ones, and then finally just some more kind of junk in this corner here. But overall, nice little work area for people who are going to be watching over everything in the city. But then moving up this ladder here, nothing too crazy up here, just a little entrance to the top part here where you have a machine gun and some barricades. And then finally you also just have some crates up here, so nothing super crazy up here, plus some torches to light up things at night. But that's everything to go over in this building. Nothing super super crazy, but once again, just like a lot of these buildings, I'm pretty happy with how it all turned out. Oh, and then the very last thing to show off on these buildings specifically, they actually have a little patio, so nothing going on in this one, but on these other ones, we do have some stuff out here. And then just like the inner circle, we'll go through all the alleyways at the very end here, since that'll be a lot easier. But then moving on to the next building here, it's going to be another kind of watchtower, and as you can see, we have the wooden spikes in front of these buildings. I just thought it looked pretty solid. Plus, I was really trying to get those schematic structures in on every single one of these bases, especially if they worked for them, like the Syndicate stuff. For this building, and along with the one on the opposite side over there, we got some machine guns kind of helping guard everything. But then actually going into the building here, you got a nice little workstation for when you're on duty. Then to just kind of look over this room, we got some shelves on this side. We have a little weapon station right here along with a chest right next to it. I also apologize if all these menus make it a little difficult to see everything, but once again, that's why I keep emphasizing those pictures I took, because those pictures don't have any of that stuff in it. But to just finish going through this floor, so we got the same kind of dealio over here with the workbench and the chest. But then we also have some lockers and everything. We got some crates, and then we do have crates next to each of these doors, and this is where the ammo for the machine guns is going to be held. Going through these doors, and normally I just have all these doors open, but going through this one here, nothing super crazy in this room. It's just going to have the machine gun once again elevated here. But then other than that, we're just going to have these torches in here, and that's pretty much everything that's going on in here. So nothing super crazy, and I know pals can't actually get to these machine guns, and you normally can't even build them here, but I just really like the aesthetic of having these here. Then getting out of here and moving on to the upper part here, and I did do a little bit of decorating up here, so we got a little spot for some kegs and barrels and everything. And then on the other side here, we just have some more kind of crates stacked up, one of them kind of out of place, just to kind of make it feel like people are actually living here. And then finally, for the guards that are on duty, you do have a little spot to kind of take a break and relax, and you can view the nice little greenery over there. And then moving on to the outer part here, this is pretty basic, just some barricades here, and that's pretty much everything that's going on. All that's fenced off over there, and then we just have one of those smaller flags at the very top. But now moving on to the next buildings here, and the next one is going to be these massive watchtowers I built. Coming into the watchtower here, as you can see, we got a lot of stuff kind of set up here, so everything you could possibly need while on duty while watching out for any enemies. But to just generally go over things quick, we do have some tables on each side. I did put the toolbox on this table because I thought it looked pretty solid. But then on the other side here, we do have some spots to get some drinks and some barrels to refill those when they're empty. And then finally, we just have another weapon bench here along with some just general crates and barrels and whatnot. But that is everything on this floor that I wanted to go over. Once again, I'm sorry for going through this super quick. There's just so much to go over. But then moving on to the upper floors here, so you come up this staircase here, there's going to be a torch on every single one of these levels, but we just come all the way up here. And up here is going to be the main general watchtower, so we got turrets watching all four sides here, once again elevated to get over that wall there. But then next, all the machine guns, we do have some crates here to hold all their ammo, because you know you need a spot to hold your ammo for your machine guns. But then finally, we just have a weapons bench right here just to craft any ammo or any weapons you need. But even though this is the main part of the watchtower, there is still more to it. So if we actually come up here in this little section up here, we have a whole kind of workstation for you to work at. So to just quickly look over things, in this corner we just have some crates and everything. We have a regular workbench right there, and then in the other corner we just have some more crates and barrels. Continuing on now, we do have a pal gear station with some more chests and everything, and then we do just have a regular table with some chairs in the corner. And then finally, we do have some more kind of crates here. We have a sphere crafting station, some more medical stuff in this corner, and then we just got some barrels and some other stuff to kind of fill up the rest of this room here. Oh yeah, and then we also have another weapon bench here, but I figured you guys already saw that. But as you can see, even though there isn't much going on in that lower part, we do have quite a bit going on right above them. And then finally, if you come to the very top here, there really isn't anything going on. There's just going to be these flags at the very top plus some lanterns, but other than that, there's really nothing going on up here. That being said though, at the very top of these watchtowers, you can see a lot more of what's kind of going on. So we got this big fancy science building right here. We got the prison right here, you know, gotta watch over these pesky thugs over here. Plus we got a lot more going on even over there and over there, but like I said, I'll be going over all of that in the future. But now that we've officially gone over everything in this watchtower, let's actually hop down here and let's move on to this building right here. So as you guys saw earlier, we do have a library at this place. So if you come on in here, you got plenty of books and plenty of spots to read if you want. So to just kind of go over everything, so from the door here we just have a little potion spot, but then we just got plenty of books kind of lining the walls here. Then we do also have some desks and a fireplace here, so you can light that up and kind of get a nice aesthetic while reading. And I will keep mentioning this over and over again. It pisses me off that we have these nice desks with these nice chairs, but you cannot sit in these chairs. Palworld, make it so we can sit in them, please and thank you, or just remove the chairs. But with that little frustrating rant out of the way, moving on to the rest here, we do have some more books and everything. Once again, shocker, it's a library, but just a bunch of books kind of lining the walls here. But then moving on to the very last wall here, and we're just gonna have a desk at it with some chairs. We do have a little wall shelf, and then we have these cabinets right here with books on them, since I figured they fit the aesthetic of a library pretty well. But other than that, that's everything to go over on this first floor of the library. And then quickly moving on to the second floor, just like a lot of these other second floors, nothing super serious going on up here. So just to go over everything up here, we do have a couple of spots to store things. We do have a couple of beds with a crate in the center, and then finally we just have this antique stove in the very corner. So once again, a super basic room setup. And now that we're done going through everything in the library here, let's move on to the next building here, which is going to be the PIDF station. Now for those who might be wondering why there's a PIDF station in this Syndicate city, and I figured that every single city should have one since there should be a police station, but you'll notice that this one is a little bit run down. But to just quickly go through it here, so you come on in here, as you can see, need the PIDF, tell Carl about it. That's Carl. But as you can see, there's not a policeman in sight, and there isn't gonna be, because this is gonna be an abandoned police station for the most part. And while this place isn't completely run down, like everything still looks pretty nice and neat, there isn't gonna be any sort of police in this entire city. So that's exactly why Carl's working here. So if you have any sort of issues, you can tell him about it. But to just quickly look through this floor real quick, we just have some shelves over here, nothing too crazy, just some of the iron shelves along with the antique cabinet. And then on the other side here, as you guys saw, we got some vending machines, some more shelves and everything, just some stuff to kind of fill up the walls here. And then before moving on to the second floor here, I do want to quickly go over here because this is going to be generally the armory for the police station. So just some weapons here along with some crates and a locker. And because this is the police station, the back door does have a bit more security than all the other buildings, but I think it looks pretty solid for the most part. Nothing super crazy, but just a little extra security. But then actually going back in and going to the second floor here, this is where we're going to have all of our cells and everything. So as you can see up here, we have 3 cells here. So we have some nice little sinks out here, honestly, because I couldn't fit them in each cell. But each cell is going to be very basic. All it's going to have is a toilet with some toilet paper and a bed. So nothing super crazy, and obviously the windows are fenced off so you can't escape. But yeah, nothing super crazy for these little cells. Just some place for people to kind of sit when they're being held. Then just hopping up to the very top here now. Once again, nothing super crazy here, just an empty roof with a little flag on the very top. So now that we're all done going through the police station, let's move on to the next building here, which is going to be the mill. So as you can see here, we have the mill, or at least you could see it if this required kindling thing wasn't in the way. But coming on in here, we have a couple of mills here off to the sides, and we have a refrigerated one in the center. Obviously no electricity can get to this right now, but I might see if I can extend the base circle a little bit so that way electricity can end up getting to this. But at the moment it's just here for aesthetics, and I think it looks pretty solid with the other mills. But then going over the rest of the floor here, we just have some barrels, some kind of potions and stuff, and some crates. And then moving on to the rest here, we just have some more general crates. Nothing super crazy here, just some stuff to store wheat and whatnot.
Hey Brian, can I have some
Wheat.
thins?
What?
Can I have some
Wheat.
thins?
They're wheat thins.
That's what I said.
Wheat.
Thins.
Wheat thins.
Wheat.
Thins.
And then since this is the wheat mill, we do have some wheat growing in the back just so you can keep replenishing that. And then finally just coming in here to the very top here. Up here is a bit more decorated compared to other bedrooms, but once again, just a very basic bedroom setup. So starting with this corner here, we just have a bunch of barrels kind of stacked up here, all just kind of randomly thrown about. Moving towards the middle here, we have a little fireplace you can light up to get some nice lighting in here. On the other side here, we just have some storage here, so a couple of lockers and a storage chest. And then along the windows, we just have some beds and a crate. And then finally, we just have a couple more things along this wall just to kind of fill this area out. So while most of the other bedroom setups aren't super crazy, I did put a little bit more work into this one, so hopefully you guys like it. But now that we're done going through everything in the mill here, we're gonna move on to the fisherman post, which I'm really happy with how this turned out. So as you guys can see here, we have Scruffy's fishing shop. So we got a fishing place right here at the corner. So if we come on in here and take a look at everything in here. So starting with this corner here, we just got some kegs and everything, and then we got some refrigerators to hold all the fish and whatnot. But then towards the middle here, we do have Scruffy the fisherman. For those who get that reference, you're a legend. But we do have Scruffy the fisherman here to sell you fish and whatnot. I know there's not actually fish in the game, but just work with me here. But continuing on in the fishing shop here, we got some more refrigerators here. We got a little toolbox in the corner as well. Moving on here, we just got some barrels in the corner. We got some shelves over here. And then obviously what I'm standing on is going to be the large fishing station. And honestly, I'm super happy I was able to fit this entire thing in this building here. That's actually why I made this 3 tall compared to a lot of the other ones being 2. But we do in fact have a large fishing station here, and if you really wanted, you can have a little pool party with your friends since you can just kind of swim around in here. But we got this one here, and then we do have 2 small ones out there, so let's just go quickly check that out. So just quickly coming out here, and I promise I will be going over everything that's going on over here, but right now we're just focusing on this stuff. But as you guys can see, we have 2 little fishing stations out here, so we got 3 in total. So even though they're not in the base circle, I'm really happy I was able to add all these to this base. And then of course you got a nice big window as you guys saw, so you can actually view out into the water and everything, and I think that looks great with the dock. But to get back into the building here, we're gonna go on to the 2nd floor here. As you guys saw, there's a ladder to get up here. But then just coming up here, we have a nice little roof area, so we got some tables where you can kind of hang out and view the rest of the city from. But then moving on here, nothing crazy up here. We just have some benches so you can kind of once again view the landscape of everything around us. Then the last little bit over here, we're just gonna have one more bench to kind of view that area over there, which is a great view honestly. But then besides having these great views out here, you can actually look in here into the fishing station and watch people fish if you'd like. But other than that, that's everything to go over in this building here, so let's hop down and go through this small building right here. So once again, another unnamed building here, just kind of a little home to live in, but we got a nice little home set up here. So just going left to right once again as usual. So we got a fridge, we have a little cooking station, plus a little table to kind of eat at. And then we also just have some shelves. As you guys can tell, I really like using these just kind of fit in every single building. But then finally, we just have some more kegs here for drinks and some extra barrels to refill those. And now moving on to the upper part here, once again, just like all the other bedrooms, nothing super crazy. So we're just gonna have a bed and a crate as usual. But then we're also gonna have these shelves here, and this is a bit of a weird technique I did. For those who might not be aware of what this even is, this is just gonna be the regular wall shelves that I kind of stacked on top of each other. And I really like doing this, not just because it adds a different aesthetic of cabinets to everything, but you can actually stack these as high as you want, so you could have as much storage space going upwards. But that's everything to go over up on this bedroom here. So once again, just like all the other ones, nothing super crazy, but a nice little room setup. Then moving on to the next building here, I'm not really sure what you'd call this building, but you'll see what's going on in just a sec. But to just kind of show this off a little bit here, so once again, we got the little spike barricades in the very front, and then let's go inside. And as you can see in here is going to be our coin assembly machine. Now, just like the ice crusher, obviously no electricity can get to this, so it's here just solely for aesthetics, but I do plan on trying to see if I can extend the base circle a little bit. But to just quickly go over everything that's going on in here, so obviously on this side and this side here, we just have a bunch of lockers stacked up. And then besides that, we just have the shelf right here, we have the little toolbox right there, and then we just have some other stuff over here. So nothing too crazy, just once again another little shelf, and then we do have the iron wall shelf with some stuff on it. Then to just hop up here real quick, obviously nothing up here, but if we were to come up here, so up here we have a nice little balcony and everything, and then we do have a way to get up on both sides here with torches and everything to light up at night. But then we also have this nice little watchtower right here with a little chair, and you can kind of just sit here and view everything if you'd like. And also something I want to point out on this building compared to the other ones that I forgot to mention is that at the very top here we do have some smokestacks going on. So as you guys can see, we do have a smoke effect coming from this chimney right here, and how I did that was really simple. I just ended up using these witch cauldrons right here, and I just put 8 all around the edge. But as you guys can see, with all that stacked up, it really does give off a really cool effect with all that smoke coming out. And besides this building, I know I did put these on a couple of other buildings. I believe they're going to be the merchant buildings, but we do have a couple of smokestacks going on in the city as well. And once again, I really think it just ties the aesthetic of this kind of rugged and rundown city together. But that's everything I wanted to show off in this building here. So let's move on to this next little building here, and it's pretty much going to be a mirrored image of that other small building that's on the other side. Coming in here real quick, we just got the barrels as usual, we got the kegs, we got the shelf with the potions, and then we just got the classic kitchen setup. So once again, it's going to be pretty much identical to the other building here, just flip-flopped. And then once again, just showing off the bedroom setup here, once again exactly identical to the other one, just flip-flopped. But then moving on to the next building here, and this is going to be our farming building. So this is where all of our crops are going to be at. So coming in the building here, we just got a little desk here. Once again, I wish you could actually sit at these chairs, but whatever, pocket pair. But then in the rest of the building here, so this is where we're going to have all of our crops and everything. So down here, we're going to have some wheat, we're going to have some onion, we're going to have some carrots along with our potatoes. And then along this wall over here, we just got some tables just to kind of fill out this area a little bit, plus a little food box just to store all of our crops. Then moving on to the upper part here, this is where we're going to have the rest of our crops and everything. So this is where we're going to have our lettuce, tomatoes, and berries. And then once again, very similarly to the bottom part here, we're going to have a little food box here, but instead of just a bunch of tables, we also have some chests here as well. But then moving on to the balcony here, so we're just going to go up this ladder here to the very top. And unlike the fisherman roof, I didn't really put any benches or anything around here, but I might eventually end up doing that. So right now up here is just completely empty. But just like the fisherman building, you do have a good little view of all the crops if you want to look at them. But now that we've officially gone over everything in the farming building, let's move on to the next one, and this is going to be the research facility. So if we were to quickly run into the research facility real quick, you'll see a bunch of stuff kind of going on in here. So to kind of work left to right here, so we're going to have the Pal Labor Research Laboratory right here with some bookshelves and everything, so you can do that here. Then along the other wall here, we just have some more of those kind of potion shelves just because I think they look nice. And in the corner here, we're going to have the Pal surgery table, and I have it at an angle, and I think it looks really awesome like this. I know it's just slightly angled at a 45-degree, but I think just having the table like this looks great. And then of course, right next to the surgery table, you do have your costume station for your pals if you want to put any costumes on. And because this is kind of like the scientific building, I decided to put a medicine station here as well. But then the very last thing on this floor is going to be the drafting table, so if you want to draft up any schematics here. And then to finally just kind of fill up this wall a little bit, we just put some chests on each side, so nothing crazy. But then just quickly moving on to this upper part here to the bedroom, once again nothing super crazy, just 2 beds and a couple of shelves and everything. So once again, just like all the other setups. But now that we're all done going through the research facility, let's move on to this next building here, and this one is just going to be a general kind of workshop, just like this other small building on the other side. But once we go in this building here, as you can see, there's just a bunch of stuff that's going on, so a bunch of workbenches and places to work on things. And as you can see in this kind of workshop compared to the other ones, there's some more nitty-gritty stuff such as the actual Pal gear station, the repair bench, and the medicine production station. But besides that, we just have a bunch of shelving here, so we got some lockers, some of those iron shelves over there, we just got some crates, one of these decorative kind of workbenches here, and just some kind of extra space to work on stuff. And then same kind of deal on this side. In fact, it's pretty much just going to be a mirror of this side, so plenty of place to work on things. And similar to the police station, we do have this little area back here. This is just going to be a little storage room with a little bit of trash in there as well, but nothing really crazy going on back here. And since we're near the back door, let's quickly just show you guys this back here. So as you can see, we do have some junk kind of piled up back here. We'll go over all this stuff back here once we go through all the outer alleyways, but at the moment, yeah, we do have a bunch of junk kind of stored back here. But getting back into the building here, let's quickly go up to the top floor here, and once again, this is just more working areas to kind of work on stuff. So as you guys can see, we do have a bunch of workbenches here. We have 3 weapons workbenches because once again, this is the Syndicate place. I figure they're going to be working on weapons a lot. But then just to make sure we have everything, we do have a regular workbench here along with the sphere workbench, so all the different types of workbenches you can need. But then alongside all these workbenches, we just have a bunch of different crates to kind of store things. We do have a bed in case someone needs to sleep, and then we just have some more extra storage back here. And then finally, if we were going to the very top here, just like all the other kind of roofs, this is just going to be completely empty besides this little flag on top. But now that we're all done going through this kind of workshop building here, let's move on to the very last one in this kind of side here before we move on to the corner tower. And in this building, this isn't anything super crazy. Essentially, it's just kind of like a larger living area, so it's kind of like a restaurant, but not really, just a lot lot of places to kind of eat and everything. But just quickly going through this room, so on this side here we just have a bunch of barrels, some shelves, once again those wall shelves all stacked on top of each other along with some kegs. On this other wall here we're gonna have once again the kind of classic kitchen setup, so we got the fridge and the cooking station along with a little table here, no chairs this time though. And then along this other wall here, just some kind of storage spots just to kind of fill out this wall, nothing super crazy here. And then finally on this other wall here we're just gonna have a circular table with some chairs around along with some extra storage spots. But then finally we do have this big table in the center here, and once again all the chairs aren't pushed in and everything, but I think it really looks nice and looks like people are actually living in this building. And then to just quickly run up here, just as usual, just a very classic bedroom setting. The only main difference compared to the other ones is that we got a couple different chests here, and then we do have a globe in the back here, so generally the same kind of bedroom setup as all the other ones. But now that we're done going through this building here, let's move on to the tower and then this last building, and then we're gonna go through all the different alleyways on the outer part here. So to just quickly go through this tower here, very similar to the other watchtower we went through, so a lot of just place to kind of work on things. We even do still have the kind of toolbox up here just to kind of work on stuff. But once again, this is going to be a very similar kind of setup to the other kind of watchtower, so just some kind of crates and barrels thrown all over the place. But then just once again sprinting up to the very top of the watchtower here, it's going to be the same kind of setup for all these towers here. These ones I kind of just copy and pasted to each other. But once again, we just got all the different turrets kind of watching all four sides here, along with the weapon workbench just in case you need to craft any ammo or weapons or anything. And then just once again coming up here, you just have this nice little workspace here. It's pretty much going to be identical to the other one, maybe just with some different boxes and stuff placed here and there, but overall going to be the same general idea. And once again, like I keep saying over and over again, I did take pictures of all these buildings, even the ones that are pretty much identical. I did take pictures of every single building. But then moving up here, we're going to just quickly take a look. Once again, just nothing really going on up here, just a bunch of flags, but once again a very nice view of everything going on, especially the fire kind of castle I got going on right there. So now that we're done going through this watchtower, let's just hop down to this very last building here. And to quickly go through this building, is going to be very similar to that other smaller watchtower that's going to be in the opposite corner of this one. But essentially, once again, we're just going to have some crates and some lockers all set up along with some weapons workbenches and some chests. And then once again on this side here, it's just essentially going to be a copy and paste of that other building. Also, since I'm right in front of it and I forgot to go over it in the other building, on this patio here we do have some cooking stations, we do have some furnaces as well, along with a little tiny cooler here in case you need to store anything. But essentially this little patio is going to be the same exact setup as this one on the other side here. It's just going to be flip-flopped. But getting back into this building here, just going up this ladder, like I said before, all of this is generally going to be the same kind of setup, and I do have pictures of all these buildings, but nothing super crazy going on up here. And then just stepping out here into the balcony, once again just got a couple barricades up here and nothing else really, just a little flag on the very top. And now that we've officially gone through every single building in this structure, all we gotta do now is quickly go through all these alleyways and show you what's going on in there, and then we're gonna go over all the pals and people that are working at this base. But to just quickly go through all these alleyways, we're just gonna blitz through them since there's a lot of these, and once again I have pictures of all these, but just to kind of show these off, we got this alleyway here, and once again just a bunch of barrels and tires and whatnot. Moving on to the alley on the other side here, we're just gonna have a bunch of other kind of junk thrown all around in all of these. But then running over to this side here, and we're gonna show off a bit more on this side because I'm gonna show off the dock here as well. But to quickly go over the back of these buildings, we just have a big old storage container here just to kind of fill that area. But then in terms of the alleyway here, just to quickly show that off, just got a bunch of kind of stuff thrown in the alleyway here. But moving on here, as you guys see, there is a nice little dock area back here. We will go over all of this. I just want to go over these alleys real quick. But to just go over this alleyway on the other side of the police station here, once again, just some kind of junk and things thrown all in here. You're going to hear me say that a lot, but that's essentially what it is. Moving on to this last alley on this side here, so we just got some more kind of junk. I did put a little bit more in here, so we got some chairs and a nice little table. Plus we do have an old refrigerator back here from the fishing station. You know, got to throw away the old ones once they break. But not to get completely sidetracked here, I do want to go over this dock because I'll be completely honest, if I don't go over now, I'm going to completely forget. But to just quickly go over things starting from this side, so we got some circular tables here along with some rectangle ones in the center. And once again, all of these chairs are kind of spread out and about to make it look like people have actually been sitting in these. But to keep moving moving along here, we got some more circular tables with some chairs around them, and then we do have this nice little dock with a fishing spot right here. So as you can see, there are actual fish, so if you really wanted to fish, you could literally fish off this dock. And then we also have some nice coolers and some benches to kind of view the fish and just the nice scenery all around. I also decided to add these little pal boxes here so people could actually view the pals they caught while fishing. But to keep moving on here, we just have a bunch of benches. I already kind of showed this off, so I'm not going to go over it again. We just got some flowers and some more benches along this back side here, and on the back of the fishing station we do have this little setup right here as well. So we just got a nice little setup right here, nothing super crazy, just a couple of kegs along with a table for people to sit at. But then moving along the dock here, we do have some more tables. Once again, all the chairs kind of loosely thrown about. One thing I gotta say is having this river running right here really just makes the scenery absolutely beautiful. So if you really just want to hang out at these chairs or tables or anything, you can do that, and it's just a really nice time. But then just kind of going through the rest of the dock here, we just have some more benches and flowers, and then nothing really over here, just a bunch of torches to light up everything at night. Also, for those who might have noticed, there is a bit of rock that is sticking out here. There's not really much I can do about that besides building something on top of that, but you know, it is what it is. But then just quickly running back here to these alleys, just quickly going through these once again, pretty quick just because we've been going for so long. But as you can see, this is the alleyway right next to the fishing station. Once again, got another little cooler right there and just plenty more junk just filling it. And then sprinting over here to this alleyway, we got another traffic light right here along with just a bunch of other clutter. And then running over to this one over here, we got another big old tube and just some other kind of construction equipment. And once again, I will keep repeating it, we got plenty of photos of all these, so I know I'm going through this all super fast, but if you want to see all these alleyways in detail, I have photos of all of them. But then moving on to this last alley on this side here, so we just have a bunch of stuff, plus we do in fact have a frog chair, so you can just sit here and watch people and be a weirdo if you'd like. Listen, I'm not here to judge, you do what you want, but the frog chair is here for you to sit in. But then moving on to the rest of the alleyways here, we're going to just quickly sprint through here, but I'm also going to quickly show off this nice windows with the crops and everything, because I didn't really show that off through the building go through. But just kind of looking at it like this, you get a nice view of all the crops and everything, and I think it's a nice little view if you're hanging out by the water on this side. But to continue going through these alleyways, so as you can see, this alley is a bit different because there's a bunch of greenery compared to a bunch of trash. And the reason why this is the case is because this is the research facility, so I figured that they're going to try to research plants and stuff, so you might as well have some of this in this alleyway. Listen, if every other alleyway is filled with absolute garbage, we can have one alleyway that looks a little nice, especially right next to the research facility. But to make up for it, we did put a giant container in back, so I hope you're happy. And now moving on to the rest of the alleys here, we do have some more barrels and some more just kind of clutter thrown all about in this alleyway here. And once again, I know a lot of this stuff is probably pretty repetitive in these alleyways, but I wasn't really trying to do anything super crazy, you know, like I said, it's just garbage. But then moving on to this very last alleyway here, once again, we got some tires and some other stuff behind these buildings as well. But coming into this alleyway here, we got the nice little stoplight here, and then we also just have a bunch of other junk just hanging out in here. I also decided to throw some rusted furniture back here like it's furniture you're throwing away or something. Other than that, that is every single alleyway that we have to go through here. But then also behind this building, I guess you got some trash and whatnot, but that is officially every alleyway in this entire city. Now I'll admit it was a lot of work to really fill these alleyways with stuff, but I really am happy with how it turned out, because you just run past everything and it really looks like people are living in this city rather than it just being kind of empty. So now that we've actually gone through every single one of these buildings, I'm just going to quickly run down the street so you guys can just generally see how it looks just running through this place, and then after that we're going to go through all the pals that are going to be working at this base. So without further ado, I hope you guys enjoyed this slightly laggy walkthrough of this entire city. Alright, so now that we're all done with that little walk through the entire city, let's actually go through all the different pals and people I'm going to have working at this base. So here we are at my pal box, and as you can see, we're going to have all the people we have working at my base on this page along with all the people on this page. And obviously, since you guys can't see what any of these people are, I'm going to go over each and every one of them real quick. So starting with this page, obviously we're going to have Grisbolt right here, and I'm going to rename them to Zoe's Grisbolt here in a little bit. But we got Grisbolt, and we also have Zoe as well, and surprisingly, Zoe is crazy powerful. I plan on making an upgrade guide for her, but she is actually insane. But we do in fact have Zoe here because I feel like it wouldn't be a Syndicate city without her here. But then moving down here, we do have 2 Syndicate elites here. I'm not going to go through every single passive skill since all these guys do have different passive skills, but we do have 2 Syndicate elites. And then moving down here, we do have Grill, which is going to be the boss version of the Crushers. And then alongside him, we do have 2 regular Crushers. But moving down from here, we do have some cleaners, so the Flamethrower guys, we got 3 of them at this base. Below them, we're going to have Swordsmen, so we're going to have 3 of these guys at this base as well. Moving up to this other side here, we're going to have all of our Syndicate Hunters plus the boss version of them in Hawk. And we're going to have a total of 6 of these guys at this base. Moving down from the Hunters, we're going to have 2 Grenadiers along with 2 Crossbowmen. Moving on the other page here at the very top, we're going to have 5 Syndicate Gunners, so the shotgun guys. Below them, we're going to have 3 of the Pistol Syndicate Thugs, so a few of these guys at this base as well. Then below them, we're going to have 2 Club Syndicate Thugs, and these guys are going to be the guys that are stationed up at the merchant shops. And then finally below the club guys, we do have one guy that doesn't have any sort of weapons. And just like the 2 club thugs, this guy's also just going to be hanging out in the merchant shop. But then finally at the very bottom here, we're going to have all of our merchants. So we're going to have the caravan leader, which is one of the guys that ends up coming to your base. And then we're also just going to have a general merchant here. This is going to be the guy that sells the 3 different types of organs. And then the very last merchant I'm going to have working at this base is going to be the black marketeer, which I mentioned earlier. So when it comes to people, those are going to be all the different guys I'm going to have at this base. But in terms of pals, I'm going to have all these different guys down here working here as well. I know I just quickly scrolled through them here, but to just quickly go over them, we're going to have 2 Jolthogs working at this base, 2 Smokies working at this base, 2 Fuddlers working at this base, 2 Pernelias working at this base, 2 Neophias working at this base, and then finally we're going to have a Pangolin taking care of the food box. And something I will mention about all these pals is that besides having them all work oriented, I did end up adding some books to them to make sure that every single one of their work abilities was at least a level 3. With the limited amount of pals I'm going to have working at this base, plus I'm not going to have any of the actual people doing any sort of working, I wanted to have all these pals being able to work as efficiently as possible. So even guys like Fuddler are going to all be level 3 in all of their stats. But now that I've actually gone over all the pals and people that are going to be at this base, let me throw them all out for you and show you how that looks actually at this base. Alrighty, here we are, and as you guys can see, we got a bunch of NPCs now wandering the streets of this city, and honestly, it looks really awesome to have this many people just kind of hanging around here. But as you can see, we are at the very top of the base here, and there's a reason why I want to be up here, and it's the first I'll show off that these guys can hang out up here if you really wanted to, so you could have all the turrets kind of armed and everything. However, another reason why I wanted to start up here is because I want to talk about why I have this mobile pal box up here. So besides making it easy to get these NPCs up to these turret spots, it's honestly because these NPCs have a really hard time going through a lot of these doorways. Now, I couldn't tell you the exact reason or anything, and it doesn't seem like it happens on every single door frame, but it does seem like it happens on a lot of doors. I don't know if it has to do with the pathing or something, but either way, just keep that in mind for this city and any other sort of buildings that have doorways that NPCs, specifically actual people NPCs, might have issues going through them. I've noticed most pals are able to go through most doors fairly easily, but specifically the NPCs that have the issues. So a great example is that no pals are able to get through this door frame here. They are able to actually come up here, but they're not actually able to get through this door. But that's exactly why I have this mobile pal box up here, so I can actually place these NPCs up here, because otherwise they wouldn't actually be able to get through that door. And the same can be said with these doors all the way down here. I will admit that pals are able to get through these doors on this level here, but it's very, very rare any of them actually go through it. In fact, when I'm trying to get pals to get assigned to this sandbag right here, they're not able to actually go through it. They'll just stand in place instead of running to the sandbag. But I have seen a Neophia or 2 actually up here, so it seems like at least pals can get up to this ledge here. But getting back to what I was actually about to say, so when it comes to these doors right here, there's a reason why I have these big doors open all the time, and that's actually because none of my NPCs can get through this door right here. I couldn't tell you an exact reason or anything. I don't know if it's because these big doors are getting in the way or something, but if I have these big doors shut, then none of my pals can get out of this big base here. And it's essentially the same situation for all these doors here. I don't know what the reason is, but the pathing for these doors just gets in the way of everything everything, and it's so frustrating because I want to have all these buildings kind of populated with people, but all these NPCs just can't go in the doors. But the only way I could really make these NPCs go into all these buildings by taking away all the doors, and that would just really take away from the aesthetic of the entire place. Plus, at that point, what's the point of even having doors if your pals and NPCs can't walk through them, you know? I know I've been kind of rambling on about this for a minute, but I did want to kind of mention this because this is really frustrating, because I do have all these doors that these NPCs are able to go through, but they just aren't able to walk through them for some reason. Also, not to go on a completely different tangent here, but in my comment section on my base builds, I have seen that people have had issues with pathing for their pals as well, and sadly I really don't have a solution to this. In all the base builds that I do, I make sure to test out all my pals to make sure they can actually get to the places where I want them to be, so it's kind of frustrating that I'm not really able to give a solution to why other people's pals aren't able to get to places. But I did just want to quickly talk about that, since like I said, I've seen a lot of comments of people saying that their pals aren't able to go upstairs and everything, and like I said, sadly I really don't have a solution to this. Sadly, just the pathing for pals and NPCs just really sucks when it comes to structures, especially when it comes to multi-level buildings like my mega base build, since those pals just really have a difficult time going upstairs. That's also why I usually put at least 2 different staircases for pals to go up, since that really helps with the pathing. But with that little tangent out of the way, let's get back to actually showing off this city with all the NPCs here. So as you guys can actually see right here, we do have Zoe just kind of hanging out here in the city. But when it comes to all these NPCs just generally wandering the streets, they actually do a pretty good job at that. As you guys can see, they kind of come down here. They really don't come down here too much, but once again, it's just the pathing is so weird. I'll admit I don't know if it's because these trash bags are getting in the way or something, but yeah, the pathing when it comes to NPCs just really sucks. I just wish they were able to wander around a bit better. But as you can see, just quickly running around here with my like 3 frames per second, I apologize about that, but yeah, we really don't have too many pals walking around except for in this main little alleyway here, which is honestly really frustrating to me. I'm gonna try to figure out some ways to actually spread these guys out a bit more, whether it be just with more mobile pal boxes around the bases and I just place those guys around there. But yeah, I'm definitely going to try to figure out a way to make this a bit better. Hopefully they fix the pathing on these guys, because gosh, that is just frustrating. However, one bright side to all of this kind of chaos here is that all of my merchants and everything are able to get to where they need to be. So as you can see in this merchant shop, we have all of our guys situated. And the nice part about having this building towards the very front is that the NPCs actually do wander in here occasionally, so it is pretty nice to see that. But hopefully you guys like how this city looks with a bunch of NPCs actually wandering around it now. Like I said, I'm gonna try to maybe see if I can make a bigger base circle or something. Maybe that'll help with some of the pathing and everything, but we'll have to see what ends up happening. Other than that though, I think that's everything I wanted to show off at this base here. Once again, I apologize for all the lag and everything. Like I said, my computer is completely garbage. Like, it literally crashed more than once while recording this video, so if that tells you anything about it. Also, I guess just something else to keep in mind is that I am recording this while playing, which takes up a lot more processing power on my computer, so just keep that in mind. But other than that, I think I'm gonna let the other me take over from here. And with that last bit all wrapped up, that's going to be everything I wanted to show you all in this city I built. Hopefully y'all like it, and feel free to leave some suggestions on ways I can improve this build, since even though it's technically done, I'm more than happy to keep improving upon it. I will mention that I do plan on eventually making this world available to download in the future. However, I want to finish the entire mega city before I do that. But once everything is finished, I'll make sure to add a pinned comment to every video I make about this project, letting you all know where to download it. Finally, once again, if you enjoyed any of the music you heard during this video or just want to support the channel in general, you can check out my DMCA free music label in the description below. That's all I have to say for now, so thank you all so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it, and I'll catch all y'all in the next one. Take it easy, everybody.